Have you ever stepped across the threshold of an older person's dwelling and been struck not by grand decor but by an overwhelming wave of serenity and precise organization? It goes far beyond gleaming floors or alphabetized novels. It whispers of a daily rhythm, a series of seemingly minor choices that collectively build a fortress of tranquility and peace. Through careful observation and a good deal of listening to those who have mastered the art of homekeeping, I have uncovered a blueprint for that perpetual freshness. We are about to unpack the quiet discipline and the tiny, repeated actions that transform a house into a sanctuary. The first principle is the evening reset, the act of tucking the house in before you tuck yourself in. Seniors who maintain spotless environments rarely stumble into bed leaving a trail of chaos behind them. The coffee cup from after dinner does not remain on the side table, and the day's discarded jacket is not draped over the dining chair. They allocate perhaps a quarter of an hour, no more, to reverse the entropy of the day. This is a psychological maneuver as much as a physical one. The goal is not an operating room level of sterility, but rather the gift of a fresh canvas when the sun rises. They might give the counters a swift pass with a cloth, plump the cushions where they sit to watch the news, and ensure the path from the bedroom to the front door is unobstructed. What is the cost of a chaotic morning versus the benefit of a calm one? One woman from a community forum described her ritual as a form of gratitude for the day that passed, ensuring the next day begins with a sigh of relief instead of a groan of stress. Next is the discipline of motion, a principle often called cleaning in the wake of action. There is a specific refusal among these housekeepers to let a minor spill become a future crisis. They have internalized the rule of immediate response. If a splash of sauce hits the stovetop, it vanishes within seconds. If a pair of shoes is removed, they travel directly to the closet, not to a holding pattern in the hallway. The core tenet is simple but powerful. Tiny, consistent interventions eliminate the need for massive, exhausting overhauls. In the kitchen, this translates to rinsing a plate and sliding it into the appliance rack rather than leaving it to calcify in the basin. In the bathing area, a quick drag of a squeegee or a towel across the tile prevents the slow creep of mildew. Have you ever noticed how a single stray item on the floor seems to invite more to join it? A retired baker I spoke with explained her logic. She dances with the broom while the oven cools, because removing fresh crumbs requires a flick of the wrist, while scrubbing fossilized jam requires an afternoon of regret. Third is the philosophy of perpetual reduction, the ongoing war against the accumulation of objects. Those who have lived long enough to see attics fill and basements swell understand a profound truth. You cannot sanitize what you cannot see or reach. They do not wait for a special occasion or a burst of motivation to thin the herd of possessions. They are constantly editing their environment, asking silent questions about utility and emotional weight. Does this item weigh me down or lift me up? Is this just taking up valuable breathing room? They understand that decluttering is not a one-time event, but a background process, like breathing. One individual described her personal policy of equilibrium. For every new article of clothing that enters the wardrobe, a tired companion must exit stage left. Another tactic is the strategic placement of the exit bin, a container sitting in the mudroom or garage that acts as a limbo for items awaiting donation. The moment doubt enters the mind about a trinket, it lands in the bin, making the departure painless and gradual. The fourth insight involves strategic vision and the focus on high-visibility corridors. Let's be realistic. No one is scrubbing the baseboards behind the dryer on a Tuesday afternoon. The savvy housekeeper knows that the perception of cleanliness is often driven by the state of the battlegrounds, the kitchen preparation area, the living space floor, and the guest restroom. These zones receive a disproportionate share of daily love. A single crumb on an otherwise clear counter looks like a mountain, whereas a pile of dust under a bed goes unnoticed for months. They practice what might be called surface diplomacy. The stovetop is deglazed of grease after supper. The common area rug is given a quick pass with a cordless vacuum before the evening news. The basin in the powder room is swiped with a cloth to erase any hint of toothpaste splatter. Why spend 3 hours cleaning a closet when a 10-minute sweep of the foyer changes the entire welcome of the home? One neighbor confided that her secret weapon is focusing solely on the line of sight from the front door to the sitting area. If that path looks immaculate, the entire house feels orderly. Fifth is the scaffolding of a purposeful dawn. There is a rhythm to the first hour of the day that either empowers or deflates. Seniors with immaculate surroundings often have a non-negotiable sequence that includes micro-cleaning embedded within it. Pulling the covers up and smoothing the duvet is a declarative act. It announces that the period of rest is over and the period of order has commenced. They might crack a window pane for a brief exchange of stale air for fresh, which does more for the scent of a home than any manufactured spray. They might empty the drying rack of the overnight dishes while the kettle comes to a boil. This is not a frenzy of scrubbing. It is a gentle aligning of the physical world with a clear mental state. One retired teacher told me she uses the sound of the coffee percolator as her cue to put away exactly 10 items that are out of place. That small victory, she claims, fuels the entire rest of her schedule. Sixth is the embrace of clever containment. A clean house is not necessarily a house with zero belongings. It is a house where belongings know their station and stay there. Those who have mastered this art treat containers, whether wicker baskets, clear totes, or drawer dividers, as essential tools of the trade. The key is immediate visibility and ease of retrieval. You will seldom see a remote control migrating across a room because it has a designated cradle. You won't find a tangle of scarves on a hook because there is a labeled shelf for winter gear. They also gravitate toward furniture that pulls double duty. The footstool that lifts its lid to reveal a cavern of blankets. The bed frame that offers deep drawers for off-season shoes. One woman's kitchen was a masterclass in this. She used transparent acrylic containers for every grain and bean, not just for neatness, but because she can instantly see when the oats are running low. Does searching for a misplaced pair of scissors steal more time than simply putting them back in the right cup? Seventh is the art of the modest undertaking. Instead of viewing the home as a monumental, insurmountable mountain of grime, these individuals see it as a collection of small, manageable hills. They do not schedule clean entire home on Saturday with dread. They schedule dust the photographs on Tuesday and sweep the porch on Wednesday. This fragmentation of labor removes the psychological barrier to starting. One of the most effective techniques observed is the application of a strict, low-impact time limit. A woman in a retirement village described her method. She winds a kitchen timer for 12 minutes and attacks whatever annoys her most in that room. When the bell dings, she is honorably discharged from service. 9 times out of 10, the mess is gone before the alarm even sounds. What task have you been avoiding simply because you imagine it will take longer than it actually will? Eighth is the law of immediate access. This is a logistical masterstroke that eliminates the friction of starting. Friction is the enemy of maintenance. These individuals station caddies and cloths exactly where the mess tends to manifest. The liquid cleanser and a stack of rags live beneath the sink in the washroom, not in a distant basement pantry. A small broom and dustpan reside on a hook behind the entryway door. This means that when a visitor tracks in a few leaves or a pet shakes off a bit of water, the remedy is within arm's reach. There is no long walk of procrastination where the urge to clean evaporates. One forum user shared her clever system of a rolling stock bucket. She simply wheels the entire cleaning arsenal from room to room, ensuring she never has the excuse of, "The sponge is all the way over there." Ninth is the deliberate inclusion of living things. There is a symbiotic relationship between a polished room and a thriving green leaf. Bringing the outdoors inside is a signal of care that transcends mere wiping and sweeping. A clean home filled with stagnant air feels sterile, but a clean home with a simple potted plant feels curated and vital. They tend to choose forgiving flora that requires little more than a weekly drink and a bit of indirect sunlight. Think of the sturdy snake plant or the cascading pothos. They filter the atmosphere and soften the hard edges of furniture. A small vase of grocery store blooms on the table can do more for the soul of a room than a full day of deep cleaning. One gentleman in his 80s tends a small rosemary bush on his sill, brushing it as he walks by. He says the scent of the herb reminds him that the house is alive, not just clean. 10th is the anchor of purpose, the why behind the wipe down. This is where the act shifts from obligation to fulfillment. These seasoned housekeepers rarely describe themselves as cleaning. They describe themselves as caring for the space. It is an extension of self-respect and a form of non-verbal stewardship. When you view the maintenance of your surroundings as an act of love for those who enter, including yourself, the scrubbing loses its drudgery. One woman, who scrubs her countertops to a shine each evening, explained it's not about germs, it's about honoring the memory of her mother's kitchen, a place of refuge. Another shared that the simple act of aligning the fringe on the carpet gives him a sense of control in a world that often feels untethered. Is cleaning a chore you must do, or a ritual you get to do? 11th is the recognition of the turning seasons through deep cleaning rituals. While the daily habits keep the ship steady, the change of weather calls for a more thorough inspection. The wise caretaker leverages the equinoxes and solstices to tackle the hidden layers of the home. This is the time for rotating the heavy mattress, for laundering the dust-laden drapes, and for pulling the stove away from the wall to reclaim the territory behind it. These are not weekly tasks, but ignoring them leads to a slow, creeping degradation. One man's annual tradition is the Glass Clarity Day, where he meticulously cleans every window pane inside and out, noting that the increase in natural light during the darker months is a massive mood booster. Another woman dedicates a weekend in autumn to emptying and sanitizing the kitchen pantry, preparing for holiday cooking with a clean slate. 12th is the creation of distinct activity zones. Chaos often ensues when the boundaries of activities blur. Seniors who maintain order tend to enforce a clear separation of purpose. This is the corner for reading, this is the table for puzzles, and this is the mat for stretching. By containing the associated tools to that specific island, they prevent the diaspora of hobby items across the entire house. A crafting enthusiast, for instance, might have a rolling cart with drawers for yarn and scissors parked permanently next to a comfortable chair. When the project is over, the tools are simply returned to the cart, not scattered on the coffee table. What would your living room look like if it wasn't also doubling as a home office and a gym? Establishing these invisible borders reduces both visual noise and the stress of locating a lost needle. 13th is the infusion of joy and companionship into the process. These wise individuals have cracked the code that you do not have to suffer alone in silence. They pair the necessary with the pleasant. This might look like a phone call on speakerphone while folding a mountain of warm laundry. It might be a brisk, solo dance session to a favorite record while the vacuum roars. Some have even turned the more intense decluttering sessions into social events. I heard of a pair of friends who swap Saturdays. One week they tackle the spare room at Jane's house. The next week they conquer the garage at Mary's, followed by a nice lunch. This camaraderie transforms a dreaded purge into a supportive and often hilarious exchange of stories about the things they've saved. Why clean in isolation when you can clean with a soundtrack or a friend? 14th is the sacred appointment of the weekly deep dive. Even with the most diligent, clean-as-you-go ethos, certain tasks simply need a dedicated block of time. The filter in the vacuum needs changing. The shower curtain liner needs a wash. The tops of picture frames need dusting. Seniors often lock in a specific window of time, perhaps Friday morning from 10 to 11, to address these deeper layers. This removes the mental burden of trying to remember if the toilet brush was sanitized last week or the week before. One retiree has a simple rotating calendar. First week of the month, bathrooms. Second week, appliances. Third week, bedrooms. Fourth week, living areas. This systematic rotation ensures that no corner of the home is ever more than 30 days away from a thorough review. 15th is the rhythm of the wash cycle. Laundry is the river that never stops flowing, and these housekeepers are master hydrologists. They do not wait for the hamper to achieve critical mass or for the last pair of clean socks to vanish. They adhere to a predictable, recurring schedule. This might mean that Mondays belong to the whites and darks of the wardrobe, while Fridays are reserved for the sheets and bath towels. The crucial second half of this habit is the immediate return of the item to its home. Folding the clothing and putting it away is part of the laundry process, not a separate, dreaded task for later. One woman described her system as the burden basket. She carries the empty basket back to the bedroom immediately after the dryer stops, filling it with the warm clothes to fold on the bed. This eliminates the clean pile on the couch phenomenon entirely. 16th is the long view of seasonal property care. Beyond the daily wipe and the weekly scrub lies the annual upkeep that protects the structure itself. Seniors are often keenly aware that a bit of prevention now saves a world of expensive repair later. This involves tasks like checking the seals on the refrigerator door, flushing the water heater of sediment, or ensuring the gutters are clear before the first hard freeze. One retired engineer makes a point of walking the perimeter of his house every spring equinox, looking for small cracks in the foundation or loose siding that could invite moisture. Another woman schedules a freezer audit before the summer months to use up anything that might be getting freezer burn. These periodic rituals are the invisible scaffolding that keeps the entire edifice of daily cleanliness from collapsing. When you distill all of this down to its essence, you realize that a spotless home is not a static achievement but a living, breathing consequence of consistent habits. These veterans of home life do not wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration to strike. They have woven the threads of tidiness into the very fabric of their daily existence. The result is not merely a house that is ready for a magazine photo shoot at a moment's notice, but a home that radiates an undeniable aura of warmth, capability, and deep comfort. Whether you are at the very beginning of your journey toward a more serene environment or simply seeking to polish an already established routine, there is a wellspring of wisdom to be found in watching how the experts do it. I would genuinely enjoy reading about the particular rituals that keep your own space feeling like a sanctuary. Please share your insights and experiences in the commentary section down below. And if this exploration into the quiet art of homekeeping provided a moment of clarity or a spark of motivation, I would be honored if you would tap the like button and subscribe to my channel. We have many more journeys planned into the habits that shape a well-lived life, and we would love for you to be a part of them. Thank you for spending this time with me.